Jerry Jones my money.
I want to see people rip their heart out of their f***ing chest.
Boots to asses.
What's happening, everybody? Philly Experience Podcast back. Another week going by. Still no sports. However, some positive news. We've got NASCAR coming back, so there's a start.
What?
I know you guys aren't fans. I know you guys aren't NASCAR fans, but hey, let me add this in here. Being the one NASCAR fan here, that's a start. Now that that's back, hopefully in the next couple of months, we can get plans organized in order for other sports, as far as basketball, baseball, and football, to start, getting back into the swing of things. We got training camp going to be coming up soon in the summer. We still want to finish out the NBA season. We still want the baseball season to start. But what's happening recently, a lot of meetings are happening as far as, baseball general managers, ownerships meeting, and, they're trying to get a head start as to, okay, let's look forward into the future and see how what the best case scenario is as far as what track to take to get things back open, which is obviously the ultimate goal here. So topics today, we're going to rock with NFC East, NFC actually in general quarterbacks. Tanner wanted to bring this up. It's a great topic. Get our opinions on, what we think, in our opinions, what we think the best quarterbacks in the NFC are. Because listen, we want to bring up this Dak topic today. This guy wants $45 million. That's a lot of money. I know Jerry Jones doesn't want to pay him $45 million. He gave $100 million to Zeke, which, in my opinion, I thought was pretty crazy. That price tag a lot, especially for running back. So we want to touch on that. Bryce Harper makes some comments regarding salaries in the MLB. So, being a Bryce fan myself, I always got his back, but I know a lot of people out there disagree with what he said. So we'll touch on that too. I also want to touch on the Last Dance documentary. That's kind of been keeping our attention, focused in the sports world in the past couple of weeks, getting to see that every Sunday night, which has been great. I thought the whole documentary that was put together was amazing. And, obviously us not growing up in that era, getting to see, 90s basketball was great. And last couple here, we want to go NBA season. Where do we go from here? I know Adam Silver's having meetings and, trying to figure out maybe we'll go 2 cities, and that's where the games will be played. We won't travel, and there won't be teams going all over the coast, up and down the coast, I should say. And, that'll be it. So let's kick it off here. Always want to start football on this show. Big football fans, all of us. And I want to bring Tanner in here. Tanner, what do you want to say? How do you want to kick this off with the NFC quarterbacks?
Well, I want to do this because I believe the NFC is one of the other than the AFC is the competitive. It's more competitive than the AFC, quarterbacks wise.
I hear you.
And I just feel like people have different opinions on who the best quarterback is in the NFC. And I'll just start right off saying my list in order: Russell Wilson, Carson Wentz, Drew Brees, Aaron Rodgers, and Tom Brady. Those are my top 5 quarterbacks in the NFC.
Tom Brady?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you got to put Tom Brady on the list, man.
Yeah, listen, I can't argue that. Man, 40, what is he, 43, 42 years old now? Yeah. Can't argue.
Well, listen, I didn't do this mostly off resume. I did do this off of last year's stats, and either way, Tom Brady would be on here. Definitely would be closer to the top if this was off. He would be on the top if this was off resume.
Right.
But I put Russ at the top because he had the most passing yards of these guys on the list with 4,110 yards. He had 31 touchdowns and only 5 interceptions. He played 2 games in the playoffs, so you got to factor that in. He threw 602 yards and 2 touchdowns. Unfortunately, we got to see that firsthand with the game that he won.
Yeah,
and I put this may be more questionable. You guys may question this, but I put Carson Wentz just under Drew Brees as number 3 because Carson Wentz, with what he did with the weapons that he did not have,
right?
He still passed for 4,039 yards, 27 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. So I have Russ. Restate the order is Russ, Carson, is Russell, Drew Brees, Carson Wentz, Tom Brady, and Aaron Rodgers. And yeah, Drew Brees, he only played 11 games, but he still had 2,971 yards,
Mhm.
Passing 27 touchdowns. So he would have had, I think he could have had more than Russell Wilson if he played those 6 more games. He only had 4 interceptions. He played in one playoff game, 208 yards. But Aaron Rodgers is below Brady. I'll get into Brady after Rodgers because Aaron Rodgers, this could be considered an off year for him.
Mhm.
Even though he still passed for 4,000, just over 4,000 yards. He had 4,002. 26 touchdowns, only 4 interceptions. He had 569 passing yards in just 2 playoff games that he played in with 4 touchdowns. And then, of course, Tom Brady hasn't played in the NFC yet, but he will be going in as a top quarterback because he almost had the same situation as Carson Wentz, although he did have Julian Edelman. And in the beginning of the season, those wide receivers that he had, he even had Antonio Brown. So Tom Brady passes for 4,057 yards, 24 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, and they lost in the playoff game, but he still threw for 200. 209 is not a Tom Brady type game with 0 touchdowns in that playoff game. And we saw how different he played, but I think Tom Brady will still be going in as a top quarterback in the NFC. So, yes, Russ, Drew Brees, Carson Wentz, Tom Brady, and Aaron Rodgers.
Listen, I can't argue that list. If I tell you, I'll let you go first, but I'll go last here. But again, that list, if you want to roll with that, you can nitpick and say you want to throw in, I don't know, maybe Matt Ryan, and maybe he'll sneak. I know.
I'm talking about last year.
I hear you. Listen, I hear you, but I'm still believing in Matty Ice. Him and that Julio connection.
You're the only
been
one
there for years. But you can roll off here, and I'll get mine in after you.
All right, so here's my list. Obviously, with Tom Brady, going over to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I'm sorry, 6 rings, he's automatically got to be slotted into that number 1 spot, automatically. So I got Tom Brady.
You're doing it off resume.
I am. I'm doing it off resume. I am.
All right.
Not just resume, but also overall play, like consistent play over the course of your career. So, number 1, Tom Brady. Number 2, Drew Brees. Drew Brees has been a problem forever. Like, there's no arguing about that. Drew Brees is always going to continue to be a problem in the NFC.
He could have been in talks for MVP if he played the complete season.
Easily.
I completely agree with Drew Brees second on that list.
Easily. So at number 3, I have probably an underrated quarterback that a lot of people look over, Russell Wilson.
Oh, come on.
Come on. No, listen.
I have him as number 1.
Like Russell Wilson gets overlooked sometimes in the NFC, and it's a shame because he is one of the top 5 quarterbacks probably in the NFL today. And then I got to be a little bit of a homer and put number 4 at Carson. Now, number 5 for me was kind of difficult, but I ended up going with Aaron Rodgers only because of his resume. I was close. When I say I was close, I mean I was real close to putting Dak Prescott in that spot, but I couldn't do it. Not just because I'm a Philly person, but because Dak Prescott doesn't have the resume like that these guys have. Every single last one of these guys have rings. All right? And every single last one of these guys have done some things on the field that Dak Prescott hasn't. Like, for example, Dak Prescott has always had weapons around him. You guys can say whatever you want about Carson, but the simple fact that he threw for over 4,000 yards this past season and didn't have one single receiver that caught over 500 passing yards, that's impressive. He was playing with guys that, let's be honest here, we were probably found in a Walmart somewhere. Like, let's be honest. Like, seriously, he was throwing to those type of guys.
Now, T, I don't hate you for considering putting Dak Prescott on there, and we have to put our bias aside, and we gotta consider Dak Prescott. I did not put him on my list because I believe obviously Carson Wentz is better than Dak Prescott, and all those other quarterbacks on that list are better. But last season he did pass for 4,902 yards. He had 30 touchdowns and 11 interceptions. That's a 99.7
Yeah.
quarterback rating.
Listen, T, another great list here. I mean, there's so many. Like we mentioned, why we're doing this. Why we want to do NFC quarterbacks, and the reason is because there's so many to choose from, and everybody's list is obviously different. But when compared to the AFC, there might be not as many, or there is more options in the NFC than the AFC. So that brings me to my list here. For me, number one, right now, if I had to pick today, I would probably go Drew Brees number one. This guy's been consistent throughout his career. I know he had the thumb injury last year, but every year he comes in. I think a big part of it, his success, is that dome in New Orleans. Always in the playoffs. I know he's only got one ring, but when you're picking a leader for a franchise, you got to put Drew Brees in there number one. So I'll roll with Drew Brees number one. Number two, this was tough. I was between Russell Wilson and Rodgers, 2 and 3, and I picked Aaron Rodgers number two. Obviously, the Packers last year going to the NFC Championship game. In my time, probably one of the more quiet trips to the NFC Championship game that I can remember. They get the first round bye, they get past Seattle, and then they roll into that final game there against San Fran. Don't get the job done, obviously. So I go Rodgers, then Russ. Speaks for itself, Russell. And then I go Wentz 4, injury history. He's down a little bit further, still very young from a quarterback standpoint. Still has the opportunity to get to that elite level throughout the rest of his career. And I'm going to roll with Matt Ryan 5. I just feel like Matt Ryan's resume and still producing at his age today has been great.
So who was on your list? State that in order.
So it was Breeze, then Rodgers, then Russ. Then I'm going to go Wentz, and then I'm going to go Matt Ryan. I'm going to put Matt Ryan in over Brady just because I think I just don't think Tampa Bay. I'm not riding that bandwagon this year. I don't think they make the playoffs. In all honesty,
really?
Okay,
I don't. Right. I'm rolling Matt Ryan. I think I've always been kind of a Matt Ryan fan. I don't know why. I mean, I'm not a Falcons fan, but I just think Matt Ryan's been consistent. I know. I get it. It doesn't have the ring. Kind of choked. It wasn't completely on him against Patriots in the Super Bowl. But, I mean, it's a guy that I've kind of rooted for his career. He's a guy, he's likable, and he won the MVP a couple years back, 2016. And I just feel like the Falcons aren't done yet. The Falcons are not a team we talked about or has been talked about in the news. I just feel like they're a team that you can quietly watch this upcoming season. And I wouldn't be surprised if they get in a wild card. Especially now, what is that? Not this year, but next year they're adding that 7th seed in the playoffs, so you never know.
Yep. It just wasn't right the way that they went out in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, listen, we'll talk about that one for the rest of the time. That Super Bowl. But again, obviously, some honorable mentions you want to name. I think Kyler. He's an up and coming quarterback in the Arizona Cardinals. A lot of people are saying, "Oh, Josh Rosen should have gave him more time." Listen, you put Kyler Murray in there. I know the Cardinals weren't great last year, but if you have Josh Rosen again in the quarterback room and not Kyler Murray, that's a big difference there. The Cardinals are probably a winless team. Maybe they get one last year if they're lucky with Rosen at quarterback. So I think Kyler Murray's on the up and up. Dak, like you mentioned, listen, T, you made a good point there. I get it. Dak, he's a good quarterback. I mean, I know he's a Cowboy, but he is a good quarterback. Yeah. He's not worth $45 million. I think probably.
Yeah, let's get into that for a minute.
Go ahead. We will. That only quarterback probably worth that money is probably Patrick Mahomes. But again, yeah, like Dak's there, and I'm not quitting on Jared Goff either. No one mentioned Jared Goff. I'm not quitting on him. I think he's still not a top 5 quarterback, definitely, especially because the last season the Rams underperformed in my opinion. But I still think Jared Goff being young and the Rams having that offensive mindset with Sean McVay. Still have Cooper Kupp there, still have Robert Woods there. I think that Jared Goff can be, if he gets, better, that's all about getting better in this league. And keeps improving each year, that he can get up into maybe that top 5 down the road.
Well, Max, I'm very happy you didn't name one player that I was maybe expecting one of you two to mention as an honorable mention. Matt Stafford.
Ooh,
Matt Stafford,
you know what?
I'm just never have been a Matt Stafford fan. I don't understand how he's still QB1. His numbers, he has good numbers. 2011 through 2017, he has over 4,000 passing yards for each season, I believe. But he's been to the playoffs 3 times, 2011, 2014, 16, hasn't passed the first round. or the first game. 2011 they lost 28-4 to New Orleans. He had a good game, 380 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. 2014 they lost, close one, 20-24 to Dallas. And then their last game they lost 6-26 to Seattle. The team hasn't won a playoff game since 1991.
Wow.
But they're still willing to take a
Jeez.
chance on a guy who's 0-3 in the playoffs. And he was drafted in 2009. He was the first, I believe he was the first overall pick in
I
2009.
believe he was.
And it confuses me that a team that hasn't won one playoff game since 1991 is still taking a risk on Matt Stafford, who is 0-3 in the playoffs. And their last playoff game was what I mentioned. It was a bad game.
100% agree. Listen, Matt Stafford, I haven't been, the Lions in general have been a disappointment. They brought in Matt Patricia, hoping maybe they can get something started there. Defensive-minded coach. Defensive-minded. I was trying to think back to New England days.
Yeah, he's a defensive-minded coach.
Yeah, Josh McDaniels, offensive coordinator. So defensive-minded. And again, in my opinion this year, I thought that the Lions could come out of nowhere and surprise everybody and take Tua. I really thought they could take Tua there and pass on Jeff Okudah. Not saying Okudah is not going to be great. I think he's going to be he's a generational talent at the cornerback position. But if you take Tua there and surprise everybody, you move on from Matt Stafford. Tanner mentioned all the stats there, and he really put the bottom line right there. I mean, Matt Stafford hasn't been able to get the job done.
Yeah, I was mentioning his stats 2011 to 2017, and he had over 5,000 passing yards in 2011. Next year, he almost had 5,000. He's just around mid 4,000s to 5,000 each year up until 2017, where it started dropping off 2018 and 19. Yep. But he's statistically has been an all right. He has an interception problem. He had 19 interceptions in 2013 with just 29 touchdowns. But he passes the ball well down the field. It's just he's not getting the job done. And I don't understand why a team like the Detroit Lions are still willing to take a chance on this. The Detroit Lions has been the worst team. I think in our generation, they've been known to be one of the worst teams.
Listen. Go ahead. I agree.
I think Cleveland still has that. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Possible. You could throw Jacksonville in there too. I mean,
yeah.
But no, I agree, and I think it's up and down the whole roster. No running back. Matt Stafford has to throw the ball a lot each year. I mean, he's slinging it. Got hurt last year, and I was expecting him, with that offensive line pretty weak. Get clobbered a little bit more often. I think what was I going to say? Now that they finally have they got Kerryon Johnson and they get your boy DeAndre Swift.
Yep. That's my young boy.
Add a little bit running game. Add a little bit more power to the running game. And, we'll see. I think a big part of Matt Stafford's success throughout his career was Calvin Johnson. Then Calvin Johnson surprisingly retired. And, he hasn't had that weapon since. And we're thinking, at least I am, maybe Kenny Galladay, as he gets older and becomes, more productive over the next few years, can step into that role. Not saying he'll be on that level, but again, as far as a number one wideout, we can see him grow possibly.
Right. Since we're on this topic about worst, really bad teams, we mentioned the Browns and the Lions and the Jaguars, but also the Texans have not made it to the Super Bowl as well. Those 4 teams have not made it to the Super Bowl. Which team do you think is most likely to make it there first? I personally think the Texans were last season, but now that they take a big step back from having a top wide receiver to trading him away for, as T says, for peanuts or for basically nothing.
You piece of Swiss cheese!
Thank you, Chris.
Who do you guys think the closest team out of the Browns, Jaguars, Lions, or Texans is closest to the Super Bowl?
That's a good question.
I'm leaning more towards the Browns.
Go ahead, T.
I think I'm going to lean more towards the Browns only because they're still gathering talent while they still have talent on the roster. It's just that I think they just need a head coach to kind of get those young guys together and get them to play together as a cohesive unit. Like you said, the Texans took a step back. The Jaguars are relying on Gardner Minshew. However, they're going to have to rebuild that entire team, including the defense, and then having to offload and still pay some of that Nick Foles contract. It's going to take them a while to come back. So in the Lions still is a good couple of years away from being a contender, and unfortunately, I don't think they're going to be able to go anywhere so long as they have Matt Stafford at quarterback, due to the simple fact that he's often injured, and they really don't have. It's very rare that they ever had like a reliable backup quarterback to back him up.
Yeah, I agree with you, T. I'm going to go a different direction here. I'm actually going to say Houston Texans probably still have the best chance. I think Deshaun Watson is the reason why. They have a franchise quarterback. I'm not 100% sold on Baker. I think Gardner Minshew will be a flash in the pan. And I think that the Lions are probably the weakest out of all four. So when you have a franchise quarterback, you guys know it. You got a shot. That's where you start. I think, if they can get rid of Bill O'Brien, who I think is their biggest problem as of right now, obviously trading away DeAndre Hopkins. Defensively, they're okay. They're decent. And the offensive line is probably one of their weaknesses right now. We'll see how David Johnson comes back, getting traded from Arizona to the Texans. And we'll see how he produces. Kind of got faded out last year in that offense in Arizona behind Kenyon Drake. So we'll see what happens there. But I think I'm going to throw in the Jaguars second. I'm not going to go down the list. I just want to add the 1 point here about the Jags. Mm-hmm. They just couldn't find a quarterback. They had that ridiculous defense. They got AJ Boye in there. They got Jalen Ramsey. They just weren't able to have that quarterback. They had Leonard Fournette, O-line. Everybody can improve on their O-line. Yeah. Some are just better than others. But I will say Jags were always just, that stud quarterback away, I think.
Yeah, exactly what Max was saying. The Jaguars were so close in 2017, where it was a controversy loss to the Patriots, where the Jaguars should have won, but the Patriots won. And we can get into that. But I agree. For Blake Bortles to almost take this team the distance was surprising. And they had good receivers. That, as you mentioned, they have a good defense, and they just couldn't get the job done. And that's the closest they've been for a couple years, because they fell a little bit the last 2 seasons.
Trading away those guys too. Got rid of Ramsey.
Yeah, they went 10-6 in 2017, and that's the last we heard of them, really.
And then you also have to think about the makeup of that team. That team was very defensive oriented, and they took the ball out of Blake Bortles' hands. Like, let's be honest here. Any coach can think about how Blake Bortles plays and be like, yeah, I don't think I want that guy throwing too much. I think I'm going to run the football, and I'm going to rely on my top 5 defense. That was the biggest thing with that team. Yep. That team defensively was feared throughout the NFL. Like, nobody really wanted to go up against that defense. Jalen Ramsey was a monster. Talk about Revis Island. He was a reincarnation of Revis Island. Nobody even dared to throw in his direction. That defense was just an absolute beast of a unit.
AJ Boye, Yannick, they had Telvin Smith, Campbell, and we have them to thank for Malik Jackson.
Yep,
of course.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to touch on this topic before we move on?
No.
Nope. I think I'm good.
I want to roll into this next topic here a little bit more Eagles focused, and I want to touch on this backup running back position. We know Miles Sanders is going to be the bell cow this upcoming season. Well deserved. He really grew, especially towards the end of the second half of that season last year. And we've got Boston Scott to back him up, but we really could use a veteran presence. I'm going to name 3 guys here, and I want your opinions on what you're in favor of here. We've had talks with Shady to come back. We've also talked to Devontae Freeman, and we've also talked to Carlos Hyde. Those are probably the 3 biggest names.
I'll stop you at number 1, Max.
Go ahead. Go right ahead.
Oh, gosh, you homer.
McCoy.
You homer.
This seems to be perfect. All right, this is perfect to me.
Yeah.
He's looking for just 2 more years. We need that veteran back. He says he wants to come back home.
What's he here for?
And I think it would just be great for him to be working with Scott and Sanders in the backfield, considering we did lose a veteran in the backfield that we had Darren Sproles as veteran role back there. But I think this is just perfect. Now, I wouldn't say that he would be the best option.
He'll be the cheapest option, I'll tell you that.
He'd be the cheapest option. And you said Coleman, right?
No, Carlos Hyde and Devontae Freeman.
Devontae Freeman. I would like for Devontae Freeman to be on the Eagles, but I just feel like this LaShawn McCoy possibility is just too perfect. He's 31 years old, if I'm not mistaken,
Mhm.
and he says he has a few more years. Why don't we give him a chance? Bring him here. We don't need we don't need an all-star because we have Miles Sanders, and we're taking a shot on him,
Mhm.
which I'm still a little hurt on us letting Jordan Howard walk, and I feel
Mhm.
like we giving him another chance with Sanders in the backfield would be great. But LaShawn McCoy is definitely my option.
T, what do you think?
Ridiculous.
All right, so you Tanner, you Homer, real quick, yo,
Shut your yap.
LaShawn
I still
McCoy.
have his jersey, T. Come on.
Stop. You got everybody's jersey. Let's be honest here. I wouldn't be surprised if you had the entire offensive line's jersey. But anyway, that's besides the point. All right, look. I understand you trying to, bring back LaShawn McCoy and trying to bring back the old, lightning electric boys that we grew up watching with Mike Vick and Deshaun Jackson and all that. Listen, they're old. That era is
I heard
done.
Mike Vick can still play, T.
Yeah, he's still got the arm, but I asked him to run now. I bet you that you can catch him. They're old. Let it go. You know who I want? I want Devontae Freeman. I want a power back. Listen, like you said, we got Miles Sanders. All right. We still we brought back Corey Komet. All right.
Yep.
I'm sorry. These are elusive change of pace backs. I need a power back that I need. If I need a yard, even an inch or two, to get a first down, to get a touchdown, I need that power back. I need that guy who's going to carry 2 to 3 linemen on his back and be like, yo, get off me, little boy. I'm a grown man. That's the type of running back I need. Listen, I got nothing against LaShawn McCoy. All right, I love LaShawn McCoy. I think he, honestly, in my personal opinion, out of all the running backs I've seen, he is the absolute best. I have never seen somebody juke somebody out of their shoes before until I've seen LaShawn McCoy.
You could see it again, T.
When people compare him to Barry Sanders, and I went back and looked at Barry Sanders' tape, that is real. That is no joke. But listen, it's in the past. Let it go.
Let him come home, T.
Let it. I need a power back. Stop putting your fandom in. Stop putting your fandom before realization. Look, I love LaShawn McCoy. I do, but listen, let's be real. You need a power back, not another change of pace.
I'm happy you picked Devontae Freeman though, so we can all go in different directions here. I'm going to go Carlos Hyde, and it's for multiple reasons. I'll go list them all right now and go down the list, but. I'm going to start out, wrote it down right here. Carlos Hyde coming off of his career high in rushing in Houston last season, 1,070 yards rushing, which was productive. Stayed healthy the whole season. And, he's 30 years old, which is up there for running back. But again,
you understand what I'm saying to you?
We don't need him to be the bell cow. We don't need him to be the every down running back. He's a bruiser, T, which you like. And I think so too. I'm trying to think of that like Garrett Blunt kind of role, right. And I think he can play that for us. Probably be the most expensive choice, but I think Shady would be my second option. Cheapest is because would be the reason I would pick him second. I think because he's the cheapest option. He did average 4.6 yards per carry quietly last year behind Damian Williams in Kansas City. I know he joined late in the year. But he also sat a few games. But he did average a 4.6 yards per carry, which was good to see. Devontae Freeman, watching him early in his career is great. I mean, you're talking about a number one running back, up and down the charts, had it all, had the power, had the speed. But the one thing that I don't want to see in my players at all, and I don't think anybody does, is the injury. He's missed a bunch of games the last 2 seasons. 2 years ago, he missed almost the whole season. With I think it was a quad or a groin injury, had surgery, and then actually last year comes back and he averages career low 3.6 yards per carry, which is what you don't want to see. 28 years old, so he is the youngest of the 3 options, but can't stay healthy. And again, here's the reason why I say this: if you sign Devontae Freeman, give him his $5 million that he wants. He rejected offers from the Jets and the Seahawks, $4 million for 1 year. That he rejected both of them. He wants more money. If you sign him and he plays 3 games for you, and then he bails out, he gets hurt, then you're stuck with the same problem in training camp that you had. You only had Boston Scott. You only had Miles Sanders. So you got to have somebody you can count on. Last year, Carlos Hyde in Houston proved that. Age 30 season, but I still think he has a few years left in the tank. And again, last year he was the lead back at age 29. He was the lead back for Houston. I know they threw Duke Johnson in there a little bit, but he was a lead back in Houston, and he got over 1,000 yards rushing, which is you can't ask for much more. and especially with the options they had. You know, they weren't running the ball a ton. They still had, Hopkins and Will Fuller, who, inconsistent, but he's still there and he is a deep threat. So, Tanner, go ahead.
Yeah, I agree. Carlos Hyde was the lead back, and he is definitely the best off this list of three. Stats wise, last year you mentioned he had over 1,000 yards. He had 1,070 yards, 6 touchdowns. Freeman had 656 with 2 touchdowns, and McCoy just 465 with 4 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Okay, you can convince me of Carlos. Actually, Carlos Hyde would have been my number 2. And I do agree with what you say when it comes to Devontae Freeman and those injuries, and I understand, your prospect of that. But the thing about it was Devontae Freeman was the feature back in Atlanta. He's not the feature back. He's not going to be the feature back. Matter of fact, he's probably going to be the third running back. He's not going to get those kind of touches. Those touches are going to go to Boston Scott and Miles Sanders.
He's not going to want to be the 3.
I don't think so either. That's another problem. He did reject. That's why I mentioned he did reject those $4 million a year offers. He thinks he deserves more.
He still believes he can be a superstar. He wants to be that leader in the backfield, and I don't think the Eagles would be a good fit for him.
Listen, I'm all for players getting their money, but these players got to understand when you see a good deal, take it, okay? Like, know your value.
I agree.
You're a running back, my guy. You're coming off of injuries. Past 2 seasons, you had hardly any value whatsoever. If teams want to give you $4 million for 1 year, you take it. Come on, man.
And another thing, like Tanner mentioned, which was a good point, he wants to play. He wants to be one of the lead guys. And we've seen over the last couple of seasons, the Seahawks backfield cannot stay healthy. Rashad Penny's probably going to start the year on the PUP list, and he probably won't be playing for a few weeks into the season. And you're looking at Chris Carson, who's been carrying the load. I mean, this guy is getting 22, 25 carries a game. Pete Carroll's been running him like crazy. He got hurt last year as well. So if you're Devontae Freeman, I'm surprised that he didn't take that offer. But
it's a shame.
Obviously, he thinks he deserves more. He had a great early career and then, battled injuries last few years. But we'll see. I'm not against the idea of bringing him in, though. And T, I think you convinced me because he's not going to be that lead back. He may not get all those carries. All of them will obviously go to Miles Sanders, and he can come in as kind of a change of pace, maybe second and short kind of role. You just kind of bust him up the gut, hopefully grab a few yards.
Right.
So we'll see how it plays out. I do want to mention real quick, Jason Peters, do you think we can close the book on his possibility of returning?
You know what? Yeah, I kind of watched that interview a little bit. I'm still not 100% convinced. I'm sorry.
Still a possibility he comes back?
It's nothing like that, having that old reliable source to always go back to. That old reliable girlfriend that you can always rely on to keep you company at night. Let's be honest here, boys. No, the book is not closed. I wouldn't be surprised if he comes back. I don't care what Doug Peterson says. I don't care what anybody in our organization says.
I can't believe we're still talking about this. I can't believe it's still a topic. Right. Jason Peters is still a name coming out of our mouths. It's just I can't believe it. He didn't finish the Super Bowl season. We were curious to see if he was coming back years later. Like, no way he's coming back. He's retiring. No, he's still playing. Right. But I just can't believe that Jason Peters at this point is our number one, is the guy that we want to come back. Yeah. At this point, we want Jason Peters to come back, and I can't believe that. He was he was limping to the finish line, as you can say. He's just
for a few years.
Yeah, he's running out of gas, and I can't believe we're still talking about him as a player and not a coach.
Yeah. I agree. I think that Kelsey had it in an interview, said that Jason Kelsey I'm talking about said in an interview that Dillard's one problem last year was power. He didn't have too much power.
No, he didn't.
He would get kind of run over a little bit. But again, if you bulk up in the off season, not much to do during quarantine. So hopefully he's got a personal weight set at home and he's just lifting weights. Got his personal trainer in there with him, hopefully. And T, you're the best one to talk to about offensive linemen here. Obviously when you have more power, that gives you the stability. Yeah. Peters has the power. That's the one thing he has still. But he just doesn't have that mobility.
Yeah, power and experience is what Jason Peters has, and especially that experience. That experience will take you a long, long, long way. One of the knocks with Andre Dillard coming out was that he didn't have that power, and that he came out. I believe he was only 315 pounds. So yes, he was going to need to bulk up, and that was his biggest thing. So having that year sitting behind Jason Peters and getting that experience and being able to bulk up, I hope will help, because like I said, he played in that game against the Chicago Bears, in which he went up against Leonard Floyd and Khalil Mack. He did not do that bad of a job. Yes, Did he get bull rushed a couple times? Oh yes, absolutely. But that's to be expected from a rookie. All right, you're talking about a 22-year-old just coming fresh out of college, still got that baby strength. You're going up against grown men who got that grown man strength, who's been doing this for umpteen years. Yes, it's going to be a difference. Yes, you're going to have to train for that. And I think Andre Dillard is ready. Well, at this point,
he has to be.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, scratch that. He does have to be ready. You don't have a choice. You were a first-round pick. You better protect my quarterbacks.
I agree. Listen, the crazy thing about this is, real quick, Tanner, is that this man was brought up in trade talks not just about 2-3 months ago. I mean, we're literally talking about Peters is coming back. Definitely, we might even trade Dillard, and now look where we're at.
Which is crazy.
This guy was on. We're talking about Philly Sports Talk Radio. People calling in saying, "Oh, Dillard's going to get traded. What can we get for him in the upcoming draft that just happened?" And now we're sitting here on May? What is it? May
21st.
And he's our starting left tackle. You know, so Doug Peterson has faith in him, and it's time for him to see what he's got. You know, we talk about offensive linemen, first round picks and offensive linemen. Look at all of them that just went in this draft. That just happened. 4 of them.
Yep.
You know, they're all starting. You know, we don't. And Dillard, you know,
and some of them are really raw. The ones that are starting, there's a couple of them that are raw that I don't think should start, but they are.
Yeah, they're thrust into the position because you know, those teams need it. You know, we're looking at Andrew Thomas out of Georgia going to the Giants, and he's going to try to protect Daniel Jones there. So
I think he's
raw.
raw.
It's time to shine, Dillard. Dillard's got to get in there, and you know, we'll see what he's got. If it doesn't work out, that's just a bad move from the GM spot, but that's another topic for another day because, you know, we still got to see what he can do.
You know what? And you know what? I brought up, before we move on completely from the football topic, I brought up, you know, players and their contract value. I just got to get this off my chest. I'm sorry. Dak Prescott is asking for $35 to $40 million in a year. And in that last year of his contract, he wants north of $45 million. Are you out of your freaking mind? Are you crazy? What is the matter with you? Listen, know your role, shut your mouth. All right?
You dumbass.
You're not that good. All right? Cut that bull crap out. Let me tell you something, and I get flack every single time I say this, but it's the doggone truth. He walked into a scenario in which he had all-star receivers in a wall of China that we call an offensive line. And he also walked into an all-pro running back and a decent defense. I'm sorry. While Dak Prescott does have some talent, I'm not going to deny that. Dude, your stats are due to the fact that you have players around you, my guy. And then the 1 year before they traded for Amari Cooper, when you didn't have receivers and the only thing the offense had was Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott, you did not do that well. True. You really didn't. You struggled. You couldn't have throw that football down the field because everybody stacked that box. You're not that stinking good, dude.
Hey. This guy was offered $35 million from Jerry Jones per year, and then he said no. I mean, that's just shocking.
Are you crazy?
That would have made him not the highest or one of the highest.
No, he would have been the highest.
Yeah, the highest paid quarterback in the league. Pretty crazy.
Dak Prescott definitely should not be the highest paid quarterback in the league, but you're kind of going to have to make me be the devil's advocate here because
that guy doesn't know what the hell he's doing.
In 2016, he passes for over 3,000 yards. He's got 3,000 2017, 2018. He's almost got 5,000 in 2019. He goes touchdown interception ratio of 30 and 11. He's got, I mean, in his first year, he had 104 quarterback rating. He's averaged 97 quarterback rating. He is a good quarterback. I can't believe I'm saying that.
He is.
I'm gonna have to agree with you to make myself feel better that it is due to his weapons. I can't believe those words came out of my mouth that Dak Prescott's a decent.
Yeah, no, I gotta wash my mouth out with soap after this recording.
But also I'm gonna go back to how
we know it's hard.
We could be biased here with saying Dak Prescott, mentioning how he is an all right quarterback. And did any bias go into us putting Carson Wentz on the list? Let's settle this right now. Is Carson Wentz better than Dak Prescott?
Yeah, I have to say yes, and I think T will agree with me. But I was close. I think me and T were both close to putting Wentz in Dak Prescott in our top 5. This guy can run the football. That's one key that I like out of him. He can run. He's got a great body. He's a great body build. He's got an arm, and he's durable. He's a durable quarterback. He doesn't miss games. And listen, I get it. The weapons that he has are great, but you need weapons in this league. That's what makes Wentz so good. Watching him last year with like Greg Ward and guys who haven't produced in the league. They don't have a track record, which was so surprising. I mean, Wentz was so good down the stretch. All those games that people on paper thought in the beginning of the season, wow, those are definite wins. Then we go lose to the Dolphins. It's like, okay, now nothing's given in this league. It really makes you think nothing's given in this league.
Nope.
Wentz was able to do that. So Dak, again, listen, when Rodgers retires, when Brees retires, Dak's in the top 5, no question. And he's worth money. I'm not saying he's not worth money. He's definitely worth, listen, $35 million.
Right.
Is anybody really worth $35 million? Is it probably not, but that's the
Patrick
payday.
Mahomes, and that's it.
Yeah, but that's the payday. That's what I'm saying. That's the payday these days. This is what the quarterbacks get. If you don't want to pay that money, then they'll go somewhere else and find somebody that will pay them that money. The thing is, everybody with these drafts now that Herbert's out and Tua's out, Burrow, obviously, not a ton of teams are really looking for like a starting job right now.
Now let's mention Mahomes' stats in the two seasons that he actually started as quarterback, 2018 and 2019. 2018, he had a great year. 2019, he had just as great. But in 2018, he threw for 50 touchdowns, over 5,000 yards. The next year, 4,000 yards. He was still in talks for MVP. And then you go to a guy like Dak Prescott, who has consistently over almost nearly to 4,000 yards each season. I still don't believe he's a guy that deserves to be paid 45 annually, as he wanted north of 45 million. 35 to me is still high for him, but he is, as Max said, he's a very mobile quarterback, 826 career rushing yards. Mm-hmm. But I think we're all on the same page here. His Dak Prescott definitely is not a quarterback that deserves to be paid 45 mil.
No. Now I can play devil's advocate real quick and say that Patrick Mahomes has good weapons around him, but let's not argue about the fact that so does Dak. But let's not argue with the fact that Patrick Mahomes made some throws that, first off, you shouldn't make in the NFL, but he made it look easy because he's Patrick Mahomes. All right, let's be honest here. And then to make matters worse, the kid came into the NFL and didn't know how to read a defense. It would still threw over 4,000 yards. That 50 touchdown year that you talked about, yeah, that was the year that he talked about in an interview, which he didn't know how to read defenses. Are you kidding me right now?
Yeah, it's sick. I think that year behind Alex Smith helped him, though. Any quarterback, look at Rodgers having those years behind Favre, a couple. I don't know what it is about it. I mean, I guess just a lot of film studying. And then he's always had the talent. We know that, even watching him back at Texas Tech. But to come into the league and do what he's doing, it's been incredible. His first 3 years as a starter, you go to the AFC Championship game, you lose to Brady, then you go and win a Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. This guy deserves the money he's going to get. It's just a fact. He brings in the TV ratings, he brings in the concessions, the jersey sales, the wins.
Mm-hmm.
He wins, obviously, the most important thing. So I know it's going to be an expensive price tag. I mean, I don't know what we're talking about completely here. I'm going to assume 50 mil around there, but it'll be interesting to see.
He definitely deserves to get paid. That's no question about that. And I understand the discussions that if it was Tony Romo, he would have been paid already. And I understand that Dak Prescott deserves to be paid 100%.
Yes.
But the discussion is more on how much he deserves to get paid. I also want to touch on a quarterback that none of us include on the list. I think Max did mention him, though. What would it take for Jimmy G to be on top on the list? He had 3,978 passing yards for the season that he played this last season, where he played 16 games, where he threw for 27 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. What do you think Jimmy G could do to become to be a quarterback on that list eventually?
So for me, he has to do the same thing that he did over again. So that offense and that defense, it almost reminded me of the Philadelphia Eagles season that they won the Super Bowl. Like, everything was just on point. Everybody was clicking. Everybody was a unit. The coaching, the players, everything was working together until the Super Bowl. Then you get to the Super Bowl and you start seeing what Jimmy G really looks like. All right, so you shut down the run and that play action pass. All right, maybe he really ain't worth 2 cents. Interesting. I'm sorry, he has to grow on those passing skills and being able to learn how to read a defense without having to rely on that play action and without having to rely on that running game. Until he proves that, he's not going to be able to move up in the rankings for me.
To me, go ahead, Tanner.
To me, what really makes my decision why Jimmy G still has a few more years to go to make his spot on that list is we saw it twice. They played the Seahawks twice, and in both those games, Jimmy G made a couple of throws that just made no sense at all and put his team at risk each time he did that. And that's what really, to me, I remember that from earlier on the season. I still remember that, and I pin that to Jimmy G on what he needs to improve on is awareness. And that's for me, that's his biggest problem.
I agree with you. Some of those throws, I was looking at him like, what the is that? Seriously.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, listen, you guys make great points. I'm going to say, to keep it simple here, I think he's got to go to a different team in order to get into the top 5. Here's why. They run the football there in San Fran. It's flat out. Tevin Coleman last year, you had Matt Breida, who's now gone, but they ran it. Kyle Shanahan loves to run the football. Jimmy G didn't have to throw the ball a lot, and when he did, eye-opening in the Super Bowl, for example, when he did have to throw the ball, wasn't able to get the job done. Overthrowing Emmanuel Sanders on a wide open, post down the middle of the field, and that's the Super Bowl right there. If he hits that, Sanders goes to the end zone, and we could be having a completely different discussion right now. But
and now Sanders is on the Saints. So
so now Sanders is gone. I think he had talented weapons. I mean, look at Kittle, Sanders at the trade deadline last year as well. He's got talent around him, and I think he wasn't a great mobile quarterback to begin with. He could move, obviously.
He got the job
being
done.
young, but now he tore his ACL a few years back now, and I don't know if he'll have that same mobility throughout the future. So I think that will hurt him a little bit. But again, until that offense changes, not that it's a bad thing. Obviously San Fran won a lot of games with that offense, but to be in that top 5, you got to throw the football a ton. And he hasn't been doing that in his first couple of years in San Francisco, flat out. So I don't know. We'll see what happens there. San Fran's definitely going to be another powerhouse this year. And I think Seattle is probably my pick to go to the Super Bowl out of the NFC this upcoming year.
NFC is going to be very competitive as always.
Yeah, 100% always is. And Kansas City has to be the pick in the AFC still, but that's a topic for another day. We'll talk about that down the road. I do want to touch on real quick transitioning here to Harper's comments. We wanted to bring that up. Really touchy subject because of how the virus is affecting a lot of families right now as far as money. People needing to put food on the table and things like that. Again, I always want to mention this for every show that we do here. Hopefully everybody's safe at home. And, obviously we're praying for the loved ones who's been affected by this all over the country and in the world. But, Bryce comes out, he says players, and he doesn't really say much. He just backs what Blake Snell, pitcher for the Tampa Bay Rays, said about how players still deserve their salary, if I'm correct, T. To clarify that, I think that's basically what the whole idea of this was.
Yep, that's basically what he said.
Yeah, so I don't know. Like I said, I'm a Bryce guy to the grave, so I'm going to always back him, but probably not the best time. Probably not the best time to speak up about a touchy subject, especially during the pandemic that we're in.
I agree. To me, this was a situation of timing, just poor timing. The comment was made during the whole world. This is a pandemic that's going on right now, and there's other problems to worry about than a player just getting more millions. When people are struggling to get by and really struggling, some people are struggling, their lives are at stake, and there's a bunch of other stuff going on. And also timing wise with how he played last season. I know he still had a good season. As Max will definitely back me up in that, but it wasn't the season that we were expecting.
Nope.
And considering how long his contract lasts to and how much money he got, the timing wasn't right to make that comment. And
we know it's hard.
Poor timing.
My thing is, okay, I hear what you guys are saying, and yes, we're talking about athletes that are making millions of dollars, probably more money than any of us will ever see. And during this pandemic where people have lost multiple jobs, I know me personally, I've lost one of my jobs. But luckily I still have my other one, but that's, that's another story for another day. I'm still grateful for that one job. But here's the thing. In business, you still signed a contract, and that contract says that this player is going to get paid X amount of money, period. Now, we're not talking about, him going out there and playing. That's a different part of the contract. But these players are still owed some part of the contract. So I agree with Bryce Harper to an extent. These players do need to get their money. They full extent of their money. Because, look here, while I understand that we're in a pandemic and maybe the comments were in bad taste and bad timing, but at the end of the day, they still have families to take care of too. Yes, we're talking about an athlete that makes millions of dollars. But once again, you signed the player and the team made an agreement that this player was going to be paid X amount of money, regardless if he's on the field or not. So guess what? That player's owed that money, regardless of how you feel about it.
Politics come into play here. It gets really political. I will say this, T. I agree with you. You signed the contract. Nowhere in the contract does it say if a pandemic happens,
right?
This, that, and the other thing. I think you pay the guys. Hopefully, they have a good heart and they say, okay, I don't need obviously $40 million, whatever the check is. Maybe they donate some of it. Things like that. Food banks. I know Tobias actually just went down to Temple last week, partnered with Chick-fil-A down at Temple University Hospital. So, things like that. I hope that when they get their pay, which is probably going to happen, these guys are going to get paid their salary. And, they did sign a contract. That's the big thing. So they will get the money. Hopefully they're able to donate because that's what people need right now. They need people to step up and, help the communities out any way we can. I'm still working to, and I know you are too, Tanner as well. So, we're doing our part. You guys know I work at a, retirement community. I'm on delivering food, things like that. Tanner, you've been doing stuff in the community as well. I know that. And so you're doing your thing as well. So, as for us being, not making $330 million a year like Harper does, I know that he can give a little bit more than we can, obviously. And again, Tanner, I do agree with the whole performance thing as well. 260 batting average last year. He did have his highest RBI total of his career, did hit over 30 bombs. So maybe people look at that more than the average. But again, getting paid that contract, what do you have to do? What do you really have to do in order to live up to it? We were sitting here talking about when we signed into the contract, what do we expect? Everybody was putting numbers through the roof because of the money. And that's something that'll never go away through, till he's 38, 39, whenever the contract's up. So, we'll see what happens. Again, hopefully we have a season coming up this year, and I think he's ready. Obviously all these guys have their own, diets and trainers, and they're in the cages every day, I'm sure, swinging, keeping themselves fresh. So we'll see what happens. Again, but to get back to the main topic, just bad timing, 100% overall. I have to agree.
Yeah, yeah, it's a shame it was bad timing, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah. Let's move on here. Really quick. This Last Dance documentary, I thought was great. I really did.
An excellent documentary.
Put together something that we, as sports fans, can hang out on Sunday nights and check it out for 2 hours. I thought it was great. Obviously, growing up, not seeing him play live in his career, we wanted to, get more insight. Everybody walks around growing up with 9, 10, 12 years old. Oh, Jordan's the best player ever. We grew up in an era with LeBron James. We're always saying, oh, LeBron's the best. But getting insight into Jordan and seeing behind-the-scenes stuff, even personal relationships he built, and, games that I forgot about or didn't even know, especially, how great Karl Malone was and the Jazz era, Reggie Miller, how great he was in those battles. The bad boy Pistons with Isaiah Thomas.
Yes.
We're talking about a lot of
nasty that rivalry was.
It was great. Fast thoughts real quick, T. I know you caught it. So, Jordan, God, best player. After watching that, you can't really disagree, I'm sure. He put together so many great seasons.
So pretty much the last couple of years of Jordan's career is the ones that I was able to watch as a young kid. So I do kind of remember some of those games and sitting in some of those conversations. And yeah, I'm sorry, but you can't walk away from the documentary and not think that Jordan isn't the greatest of all time. And it's a shame how that team, got, dissembled because the thought was that they were old and it was time to be renewed.
Yeah. The money too. That's money became a factor.
Which is crazy because once again, you think about Scottie Pippen's contract, like he was getting paid pennies on a dollar compared to what he was supposed to make. Like that for me, that was incredible. And then Jordan never got paid the max amount. Like he always kept taking 1-year deals because he always cared about keeping the core of the team together. He worried about those other guys getting their money. So it like just bring all of that into perspective and how everything came together in that last season. In my personal opinion, I think that the team shouldn't have been broken up until somebody came in and stopped them. I sorry.
Agree. I do agree. Tanner, you want to get a couple points in it, and I'll go after you.
Yeah, I think this was a great way to see, to really see his work ethic. And although some people could come out of this saying that Jordan was somewhat of a jerk, it's also, you can't go without seeing how much of a hard worker he was and how he really is the greatest to ever play.
Yes.
Yeah, no, agreed 100%. I thought, just some quick facts I thought were interesting. Dennis Rodman, how his acts. I mean, this because you were talking about a guy who left in the middle of the NBA Finals to go wrestle in WWE against Hulk Hogan and things like that.
And
Does that?
Leaving during the regular season, going to Vegas. You know, Jordan has to literally fly out to Vegas, literally get him on the plane, drag him out of the hotel room. He was in there with Carmen Electra, brings him back, throws him on the plane, and gets him back to practice. And again, the funny thing I thought about all this was people were obviously talking about Rodman, like how in the hell are you still on the team? And Jordan would just say, listen, you guys are lucky that he's here right now, because, you know, Rodman would ball out the next night whenever he would play again.
Yes.
And that's the ultimate goal. If this happened in our era today, I mean, these guys are getting fined like crazy. They're getting kicked off the team, probably, things like that. So it was just crazy. I thought that was just ridiculous. I mean, think about, Ben Simmons, sorry, I'll see you guys in Game 5 of the finals. I'm missing 2 and 3.
He's got to go sunbathe with Kendall Jenner.
You understand what I'm saying to you?
Thinking about that is just ridiculous, man. I mean, I thought battles in college. One thing I noted was James Worthy. I mean, you're talking about one of the best ever at North Carolina. Jordan shows up in North Carolina trying to become the best player on the team. He shows up day one. James Worthy's better than him, flat out. He says it in the video. I was better than him. 2 weeks into camp in North Carolina, and Jordan's the best player on the team. Dragging Worthy back out on the court after practice. You know, they're dying, bent over at the knees after a 2-hour practice, and Jordan's still running it perfectly on the fine on the court. So
because that guy doesn't know what the hell he's doing.
Overall, it was great. And at the end, I want to get your guys' opinion. Was it a push off at the end? Was it a push off in Game 6?
Oh, come on!
Was it a push off? A lot of people
barely touched him. Get out of here with that.
A lot of people
Stop it.
If you're not a Jordan fan, I'm sure it was a push off. But again, not a lot of contact. I mean, he had the guy's ankles broken, but iconic shot. Obviously, that'll go down one of the biggest shots ever. And I do think if they stay together, they can have won 7. And if Jordan didn't go and quit and play baseball for a little while, they probably would have had 8 in a row there. So.
Yeah, you're talking 7-8 championships potentially, but man,
100%. We haven't talked Sixers in weeks now. Transition, probably the last topic of the night, real quick. Sixers, if the season comes back, we know they weren't hot when this season was put on hold. And as a NBA in general here, I want to know how are they going to do this? We've heard things. Okay, 2 cities obviously to play these games, and also just the rust. I mean, we're talking about the Lakers and LeBron James, Clippers and Kawhi Leonard. I mean, these big time talented teams. Klay Thompson, where's his recovery process at? This is a guy we haven't really talked about in about a year since last year's finals. Is he? We haven't heard a single word. Is he going to be ready? I mean, the GM there, Bob Myers, is saying no way is Klay playing this year, but we'll see what happens. I mean, if he comes back, then what happens? I mean, I know Golden State's out of it. I mean, really are, but it would just be fun to watch him play again and watch these NBA guys get back at it. So, do you think there's going to be any change in the standings as far as if they get back and if they have any regular season left? Will there be a big juggle? And obviously, I know youth plays a factor too.
Well, right now, the Eastern Conference, it's the Bucks, the Raptors, Celtics, Heat, Pacers, Sixers, Nets, and Magic. That's what do you think would be? How do you think the tournament would go?
So how they're describing it, and I kind of watched a little bit of it when they talked about it on ESPN this morning. So Adam Silver, the commissioner of the NBA, is talking about making a tournament where the lower end, I believe I believe they said the 7 seed on down, they were going to compete in a tournament where it would determine the last 2 slots of the playoffs. And I'm just sitting here going, this got to be the dumbest idea I've ever heard in my life. No, seriously, this is a dumb idea. Like, seriously, this is asinine, straight up.
I want winners.
I don't want to see no loser franchise happen to be compete against a team that's already guaranteed a slot in the playoffs, and then they get offset by some nobodies. I don't want to see that crap. I don't want to see the Phoenix Suns. Come on, man.
Now let me ask you a question. If the Nets, if they do play in the, if they do the playoffs and however they do it, and the Nets are in it, would it be smart for Kevin Durant to play?
No, and I'm gonna tell you why. It's something
Tanner with the questions, man. That's a big one.
I say no because it's something that I brought up in the last show. You're talking about guys who haven't played any kind of physical contact, any kind of physical sport, any kind of basketball. Period. Some of these guys haven't played for about 2-3 months now. So one, these guys are out of shape. Two, their body they're not now. Their bodies are not. What's the word I'm looking for? They're not programmed to go compete in a basketball game. Now you're talking about potential injuries creeping up in the games now.
Yeah,
Durant's already coming off a major injury. The last thing you want is for a franchise player like Durant to be coming in, but can potentially get you into the playoffs, but then he's going to re-injure himself, and now he's not going to be available for the next season.
He's well rested.
He's well rested, but he's still not in basketball shape.
We saw him push the injury in Golden State. You know, he tried to get out there, and
exactly. Look what happened.
Listen, it's not like he's going to jump in there and forget how to dribble the ball.
No. I know. I'm not saying. And T, I will say this. You know, he is working. I mean, we know he's one of the biggest professional icons in our sport today in basketball. He's working. You know, I know he's obviously going to stay in shape throughout all this and rehab and everything. As a sports fan, of course, I want to see him back. I want to see Irving back too. I know he was battling injuries the last few months there. He
was battling a few emotional issues as well.
Yeah. So if they can, those two guys, we talked about this when they signed both of them. Maybe not this year, down the road, 2-3 years. Watch out for the Nets. Not saying this is going to happen because I do agree. I don't think you play him with the injury possibility. But down the road, you pair these two with Spencer Dinwiddie, who's kind of been breaking out the past year or two. That makes for a good big three. And I'm worried about the Sixers. I really am worried about the Sixers. The more we have time to sit here and really think about everything that happens, because when we're watching it during the regular season, oh man, we're bashing Horford about how badly he's playing. But we got a game 2 nights later, so okay, our mindset is let's go to the next game.
Damn jump shot.
100%. But our mindset is okay. Let's go to the next game. Let's watch. Now that we're sitting here and we're like, man, like these. First of all, the players aren't performing at a high level. We signed Tobias Harris, big contract. Same thing with Horford. These guys aren't living up to it, and it's just it's really handcuffing us for the future because these guys are owed money and they have long-term deals. These aren't 1-year deals. These aren't 2-year contracts. These guys are locked 4 or 5 years. I mean, Elton Brand, gotta love the guy. I mean, former Sixer, but bad decision making in my opinion. I know Jimmy. We didn't have the opportunity to keep Jimmy. He wanted out. He was going to Miami. Wasn't going to come back to us. But
I hear you.
It's a shame. It really is. Joel Embiid and Simmons battling injuries, obviously, at the end of before the pandemic started. They should be fine and healthy and ready to go. But as a Sixers fan right now, looking around the league, especially in our conference, the Heat are really good. Me and Tanner were talking about this off camera. The Heat are going to be up and coming down the road.
They are.
The Nets, the Celtics, the Raptors are always going to be there. And Kyle Lowry, I mean, God, shout out to him. This guy's 30-plus years old. He just keeps balling, man. He doesn't slow down.
The East is going to be very competitive for years to come. And unfortunately, if the Sixers continue their 500 ways, their iffy ways, then I'm sorry, they're going to lose their pecking order.
We're definitely not. We're a bottom feeder playoff team. We're 6, 7, 8 seed right now. And if the Nets, who are probably like 7th right now, when they get KD and Kyrie healthy, I really do think we're trending in the wrong direction. While these other teams, Indiana Pacers, another team I haven't mentioned, we're talking about 5-6 other Eastern Conference teams that
And
are
you're-
really trending up. They're young. They have a veteran talent around them as well.
And the Orlando Magic, who's sitting in that 8th spot now, all of a sudden they're starting to emerge as well. Tanner, you're laughing, but the Orlando Magic might be something we need to pay attention to.
T, you know why I'm laughing? Because I know you don't want to say that man's name.
I don't want to say his name. Don't you say his name? Why did you say his name? What's the matter with you?
I also want to say how this is really just playing
man,
my
that's
emotions at this
irritating.
point with trying to figure out when the playoffs are going to be. Because at this point, I would already have been starting to get over how the Sixers blew it in the playoffs, and I would be trying to get on with my summer vacation. But now I have to go through this again and see the Sixers blow it.
Yeah.
This is just,
Especially with a long layoff, it's almost like agonizing. Like, okay, we're gonna have a long layoff.
just waiting
Boom.
for the Sixers to blow it.
This is some bullshit.
I really look up and down. We look at the Eagles. You know, they just have front office, personnel, coaching. You know, they got it set. I look at the Sixers, and it's not one factor here. All right, Brett Brown is a problem. We know that for a fact. Brett Brown's just a problem. I really don't think he gets in these guys' ears anymore. The personnel. Not that they're not talented players. I think if Horford goes back to the Celtics tomorrow, he's back to being Al Horford, the one we know and love. You know, I know in Boston he hurt us, and we brought him to the Sixers. Like, yeah, okay, well, he's here in Philly now. But he doesn't fit the scheme. He doesn't fit the system that Brett Brown's implementing. Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid has always been a problem, Tanner. We know that. Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid just haven't fit. We've brought up literally on the show, do we trade one of them? I mean, that's how sick it's gotten to that point before. And Tobias Harris, who is a role, he really is like a fourth guy, and he's getting paid to be a one. You know, he's getting paid $180 million to be the one, and he's a good, solid role player. There's a reason that Tobias Harris has been on 4, 5, 6 different teams throughout his career. There's a reason for that. I mean, if this guy was a franchise player, if he was a 5-year, $180 million player, he would not have been on the Magic, the Pistons. Where else was he? Well, he on the Bucks. I forget. I think he was in the Bucks maybe early on in his career. It's a guy who's been traveling all over the different teams. And Horford, great in Atlanta, great in Boston. Only 33 years old for a basketball player and playing a power forward center position. Having his veteran leadership as well, you don't expect him to be performing. He's averaging like 11, 12 points per game. No way. No way. He's been improving that three-point shot in Boston. We bring him to Philadelphia. He's struggling from three-point range. And these guys come out in the conferences, the new conferences, and they say post-game, I don't know what my role is. You know, Brett Brown's not telling me my role.
Brett Brown needs to get some Doug P in him straight
Pull
up.
your head out of your ass.
I agree. Brett Brown, Doug Peter. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Even the GM, Elton Brand, making bad choices. Not that Josh Richardson is a bad deal too. You got to think about that. He wasn't a bad idea. It wasn't a bad idea. And I think Josh Richardson is arguably one of our better players. Obviously, our starting shooting guard can do it on both ends as well. But again, I just look back to the team that I think should have gotten the job done, and that was last year. You know, Jimmy Butler. I mean, literally, how many games did he win for single-handedly? If that shot doesn't go into Kawhi, we're probably you could be looking way different right now. I think we go into overtime, and I think we win that overtime game if we get there. Obviously, it doesn't work out that way. But again, I want to mention one more thing, and I'll turn it over to you guys. Marco Bellinelli and Ersan Ilyasova that season. Those were key guys at the deadline that we got. Key guys. They stepped in down the stretch, shot the ball really well from three, and Ersan Ilyasova taking all those charges. Now, this year, who do we get? Who did Elton Brand help us with? Who did he really help us with? He didn't get an Ilyasova. He didn't get a Bellinelli. He got a Glenn Robinson III, and he got an Alec Burks. I mean, come on.
I'm sick of this.
I agree.
Completely agree.
It's frustrating that just to be close and get to the playoffs, be excited for it the last 2 years, and now all of a sudden, you know, it's not where we want it to be, and hopefully, you know, it gets turned around. That's all we can hope for. And with that, I think we shut it down.
All right.
All righty.
Before we end the show, though, I do want to take a moment and thank everyone, the doctors and nurses and the healthcare working in the hospitals and really helping out with this whole situation.
On behalf of everybody here at the Philly Experience Podcast, you know, we definitely appreciate the nurses and, you know, the grocery workers and basically the workers in general that's still going out there, that's still busting their tail, that's putting their life on the line to keep everybody going, to keep everybody, you know, healthy and to, you know, keep everybody stocked. You know, we definitely appreciate it. I know for a fact, you know, stocking the store ain't easy. So
yep, ditto everything everybody's saying here, 100%. Hopefully, you know, it's hopefully getting better.
As a matter of fact, that's what Chris is doing now. Chris is at work, unfortunately, so he couldn't be here. So shout out to Chris for doing his job and keeping us going.
Yes, sir, Chris. Working hard late, too. We're talking 10 o'clock
Yes.
on Thursday. So shout out, Chris. Yeah, definitely wish you could be here. We're missing the hockey segment tonight. I always like talking hockey with Chris. Hopefully he's back next week, though, if you can get back.
Oh, definitely. Oh, come on, definitely.
You piece of Swiss cheese.
All right.
All right, let's shut it down.
If you guys missed any of this episode, you can always go to philly-experience.simplecast.com. We are on all major platforms, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and more. And listen, once again, like we said, shout out to all the nurses and all the professionals out there, all the workers, store clerks that's still working through this pandemic. Prayerfully, we'll get through this together. All
100%.
right?
Stay safe.
Stay safe, everybody, next week.
What's going on, everybody?
I want Mason Glory help.
I'm not giving Jerry Jones my money. That guy.
Kind of circumcising the mosquito.